Welcome to the Scrumptious Woman. And I have with me an incredible, beautiful, scrumptious Qigong and intimacy and relationship expert with me. Hello, Rosa Kelly. So happy to have you on. And you're also a dear friend of a dear friend of mine.
Yes, I was so happy that she connected us, and I'm so delighted to be here.
And you're a fellow Dutchie. Yay! It was super cool just chatting to you a few minutes before we hit record that I never give anyone questions because we just kind of like see what comes in the moment. I will always ask, is there anything that you don't want to go to? And if I'll honor that. We're just like, no, this is how it is. We're having a human experience.
Yes, this is it. I think this is the base of my life. We're doing the human experience. We fuck up, we go in directions, but it's okay.
And that's it, right? So tell me a little bit, Qigong, the Qi, because I talk about orgasm and I call that scrumptiousness because I got, banned from Facebook and Instagram talking about sensuality and sexuality. I've got that Qi, that life force that we have. I know that I did a bit of Qigong years ago and I still love it because it's what brings us through. But I'm going to get you to explain a little bit.
Yeah, to me, Qi is it's aliveness. It's aliveness energy, and it is very something you can really very much sense. Like it can be very orgasmic, it can be very hot, it can be very cold. A lot of times Qi actually shows up for me as this really cold, fresh energy. But more than anything, I think without it, we would be deaf. That's kind of how it feels to me. I have had cancer and I have had cancer treatment. And throughout my treatment, when I was not able to lift a finger, I could still do Qigong and I could connect to that sense of aliveness through Qigong. It's such a basic thing for me. And it very much links into sexual energy because from a Taoist perspective, sexual energy is one of the main things to refeed our energy. So it's important. Sex is important, but not for the obvious sex reason, but for the aliveness reason, because it connects us to life.
I love that you said that, and I didn't know about your cancer, so thank you for being so honest. And when you are on your knees, not able to do freaking all, then the breath and that moving of energy, and completely agree with you that, we have all this in our center, in that sexual center, where people so often mistake. I wonder if it's the same for you as well when you say you're in intimacy in a relationship, therapist, coach, whatever word you use, expert, they immediately like almost clench your buttons, but all like, no, our relationship is perfect. And it's like, I'm not asking you how your relationship is, but already how you answered, I have a very good idea. Thank you.
100%. Or I actually have a lot of the opposite as well, that people start to pour out their problems straight away.
That too.
And I love that because I think it should be something completely normalized because sex, having sexual relationships, being connected to our bodies, it's hard work and we cannot always feel connected. It's impossible. So let's talk about it. Let's normalize the conversation, please.
Completely. And of course, you're Dutch, I'm Dutch. It's a little bit more okay to speak about sexuality. Yeah, this is where we came from. Let's be really honest, right? And in a woman had a baby. You had sex, produced a baby. We come out of the vagina. Let's just be honest, right? But when I moved to the UK from Switzerland, and I had 2 boys, and then I was pregnant with twin girls, and I asked Kitty, my ex-husband, I asked his cousin who had 2 daughters at that time. So I'm like, so what do you call it? And she said, well, front bottom. I'm like, front bottom? What the hell? And I remember speaking to a journalist of the Telegraph. I'm like, I came to the UK and asked for help. What do I let my daughters call this? We call it a vulva, vagina, pussy, because that was still like very like out there and people didn't like that. It's like front bottom. I'm like, wonder people are freaking confused. You got a back bottom and a front bottom. Anyway,
I know, it's insane.
Those things that I just think, wow, society and how you've been brought up and how open you can be about these things it's really challenging for a lot of people.
I agree. It's sad because there's a lot of sadness around it. And I don't think sex is the most important thing in a relationship, but I think if it's bad sex or no sex, then all of a sudden it can become the most important thing in the relationship. It's
Completely.
sad. People really suffer. Yeah. I once heard this statistic that when people have physical heart problems, it takes them an average of, let's say, 4 hours to seek help. But if they actually have heart problems in the relationship, it takes an average of 7 years to get help.
It's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, it's people really suffer.
And at the moment, I know that the rate of intimacy is actually dropping. People are having less and less physical touch. And I'm not even talking about only intercourse, but they're just having less physical intimacy. And I've been talking about stroking a hand, being conscious with each other. I'm speaking to a lot of young adults in their late 20s, early 30s. They're just saying, oh, I just don't have time for that right now.
I think it's sad. We are living in a time where there's so much distraction, and to be touched without presence, it's horrible. Like, it's horrible. And I actually think that's interesting because Qigong, if nothing else, brings so much presence. You know, if you don't do Qigong with presence, you're doing aerobics. It's a different thing. Exactly. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
Doesn't work, the ball, nothing.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's not what you do it for. You do it because you can only do it properly with a lot of presence.
And presence, I think, is probably the biggest gift we can give anyone.
Yeah, it is.
And that's what I talk to my couples about. It's like, I split them. I get people that haven't had sex for like 23 years. They come and work with me and I give them homework. I'm like, we're actually taking sex off the table for the first 6 weeks. And they're like, but it hasn't been a problem. I'm like, but it might be once I get started with you. And then just get them to connect again and have really short touch dates of like 3 minutes at first. And they're like, are you crazy? I'm like, no, you're like starting to ride a bicycle again from nothing. And we're building your capacity. We're building your presence. The moment that every single touch is yes, you're rewiring that neural pathway like, oh, yes, yes. And then you leave it at a peak so that the next experience can also increase that. And that's, of course, where the chi then comes in. What is one of the things that people ask you most when they find out what you do and how you help people?
I'd say one of the main questions, especially for women or for men, how can my partner get her desire back? Can you fix her? I would say most people actually crave sex, but not the sex they're getting.
That's it.
I think it's oftentimes I think women crave sex. I believe that, but not penetrative sex without any presence. That's not what we crave. So that would be a very common question. And then when I talk about Qigong, I think for a lot of people, it's, I think sometimes they think it's really woo-woo. You know, they just, and I love the word woo-woo, by the way. Like, I'm doing this shamanic Chinese medicine course, and the first practitioners of it were the woo shamans. Like,
Right.
that's literally which means magic. So I take the word woo woo anytime. I think it's amazing. But yeah, maybe it is woo woo to some, but for me it makes a lot of sense. And I think to our bodies, when you start to be attuned to your body, I think it makes a lot of sense to work with energy.
Completely. But we're all energetic beings and everything is energy. So it's like when people say, oh no, we can't. I'm like, well, listen, we're working with different bodies here. Our emotional body, the physical body, then, and then more and more. And they just look at me, it's like, how do you mean? So when they see me do energy work on someone, I'm off the body and they see their whole body shaking. It's just like, what are you doing there? I said, well, I'm working in her emotional body because that's where she's holding a lot. And it's not even hers, it's grandparents. And then they're all like, oh, how do you know that? I'm like, well, lots of study and, lots of practice.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah.
And I love where you say it's like often men will feel that it's the woman's desire has evaporated, has turned down, whatever. And I often see this where they try something new and they may go to a tantra date or a workshop. And for 2-3 weeks, everything is like, okie dokie, it's all perfect again. And then they go back to their own patterns. And, and all of a sudden things become, too busy. But it's like, I remember having a couple here from a TV show. And I was explaining to him that it takes 40 minutes for a woman to become engorged enough to be penetrated. And his response is just like, oh, well, fuck that. I don't have time for it. And I said, that doesn't mean 40 minutes of having to like go down on her or stimulate her, but it could be just 20, 30 minutes of touch, talking, having your beloved in front of you and putting your presence on them, putting attention on them.
Yeah. Or like do some foreplay in the day. Like, I think sex doesn't start in the bedroom. If you heat each other up, you send each other nice messages, there's this build up, this anticipation. Obviously, you're going to be much closer to any form of arousal as well.
And that's it, right? Instead of being so focused on the negative or not what's not going well, it's just like if we can just change the perspective and like get to know each other again, right? That's why I have my cards, and I always get people to do it like 15 minutes of my cards with it's a dyad, right? Tell me what was exciting about your day today, or tell me what you were afraid of as a child and now no longer are, so that you get to know this person. You may have been married for 23 years, but these may not be any of the questions that you ever do ask them.
Yeah, it's super true. Super true.
What's been one of the most complicated cases for you?
Well, I have had a few cases. A few actually, where there had been rape within the marriage, and that has been complicated because there's so many layers around this. But I do think it's much more common than you think, and I sometimes think it makes the job hard. In a way, more than anything, it's so painful for both partners when you really face it. So I think those cases have been complicated
because the trust has gone and that needs to be rebuilt, and I obviously that's probably my main focus, where women have had some kind of sexual abuse, and it doesn't even need to be full rape, but what lives in their bodies, and to translate that for men so that they can understand what's actually happening in our bodies.
Yeah, and also to see where men are coming from. I'd say, at least, for example, in the Netherlands and in England, rape within marriage was only put in the civil code in 1996. That's so recent. In the Netherlands, up till 1956. I'm sorry, I used to be a lawyer, so I'm very much into my legal thing.
Oh, yeah.
In the Netherlands, but up to 1956, basically, we had the duty to have sex with our husband. If he wanted to have sex, we as women had to deliver. I see that so much in my practice, that there is that sense of entitlement in men to have sex, and also for women to feel obliged to do it, which can be very damaging in the long run. To have sex where your mind is like, okay, well, whatever, I will just do it. Yeah, that works in the short run, but it does not work in the long run, because you will feel that boundaries have been crossed. And the body holds that. I think you get away with it oftentimes for quite a long time, because when you're younger, you're much easier lubricated. But hitting perimenopause, where things are really starting to change, well, there you start to pay the bill for that behavior, because our bodies are not doing what we want anymore. And there you see what you actually really probably should have had all these years back. But this is very much the age group that I'm seeing as well. Is that also women are like, enough of this, I'm not putting up with bad sex. And rightly so. Yes, I prefer to have no sex than bad sex, any day of the week.
And that's what I'm hearing more and more from. Before, my clients were all in their like 40s to 60s, like late 60s, maybe even 70s. And now what I'm getting is like a lot of younger adults that actually want to start understanding about this and saying, well, I don't want to have bad sex. So how do I teach them to have the sex that I want? I'm like, we start with getting him to make you a cup of tea and adjust him there. And they're like, what the hell? So that's what I do in my VIP days, and that's what I do in my workshop. I get them to make a cup of tea and then give a shit sandwich. It's like, thank you for the cup of tea. And it's not quite the cup that I wanted it in. And it's, I wanted a little bit more honey, etc. And then thank you again. Could you make it full? The funny thing is about a cup of tea is where you can adjust them. And when you learn to adjust for things outside the bedroom, then all of a sudden it's quite easy to do it in the bedroom as well. Can you stop for a minute? Can you pause? Can you go lighter? Can you go a little bit to the left? All of a sudden I get these like younger women like, oh my God, that has changed my life. And my boyfriend, my partner, my husband really wants to please me. He just took it that he was constantly wrong. And after doing that, he's just like, oh, this is not about me. This is just that I didn't know. Yeah, I'm not a mind reader. And now she's actually telling me what works. And like, hey, can we try this?
Amazing, huh?
I just love it. That age group is also a little bit more open to it because they have seen that, people are more open about sex and sexuality and intimacy and really like what it is to bring what's on our inside. But how can we just tweak that so that it fits every person? And there's no one way.
Oh, there isn't. And also, even in our practice, like I see very much that part of it is very sciencey and very much like, oh, part of it is very embodiment, and part of it is now more and more in my practice. I work with the very much Taoist principles. So, for example, working with kidney energy. When there's low desire, I know this is very much a kidney-related thing. So how can we activate the kidneys again? And to do Qigong practices for that, to do breath practice for that, to really link it in all that as well. It's super, super, super important. It's
And
fun.
like I tell my guys from time to time, like, can you just hold her adrenals here? Hold her their lower back. And like for women, I tell them it's like put a scarf on there. A lot of Japanese wear a band like that, like a pregnancy band, and because it actually keeps those adrenals warm, because like you said, they're often cold and they're not working so well. And that's when all of a sudden, like 2 weeks later, like, oh, that really worked. So I love how we're pulling from everything. And I don't think there's ever one right way of looking at it.
No.
So if there are some women and men that are listening to this now, what are the 3 things that you would tell them? These are 3 things that will really change your relationship.
Slow down. That's like, in a way, if you would have asked one, that would be my thing. Slow down and see what is. That is for sex. That is for listening to each other. That is for everything. Slow down and create space, create presence. So that would be, I'd say, by far the main thing. Another thing would be curious, like for women, like when you cultivate your own pleasure, be curious about what actually gives me pleasure. But for couples, be curious. We think we know everything about each other. We don't. We really do not. And I sometimes send my couples on a blind date with each other. I say, you leave the house separate. You're not, and you're going to go out there and you're going to sit and you have a blind date with each other. And you're going to ask all those questions that you think, I know these answers already. And funny, they always come back and say, that was amazing. I actually heard things, or he surprised me with his answer, or, it turns out he actually hates his job. Well, I thought he was quite fine. All those things, all these assumptions. So I think, stay curious.
Completely.
Yeah, so that would be, and then a third, have your own sexuality as well. Do not think that we can fulfill all our sexual needs. Like you need your own sexuality as well as sexuality together.
I really like your own practice, right? Your own, and that doesn't need like finger on the clit or on the penis, right? But it could be just whatever.
Breast massage.
Yeah.
For example, I recommend, a head massage, but also like from a Taoist perspective, the breasts are called the bells of love, and it makes so much sense. They are sitting on top of the heart area. And just to learn to massage your breast, and like the Taoists say that when you open the breast, you actually open your vagina. Mm-hmm. So they don't actually, like whenever you would work, for example, with a jade egg or something, you would start opening your breast.
First.
So, and that would be part of self-cultivation. And it's not per se sexual, it's much more sensual. And it's much more tapping into that sense of aliveness.
I completely agree. I mean, I have like the funniest thing. I have this one sitting on my desk. Now it's fallen out. But it's this little duster. And for me, just to like rub the neck with it, I'm like, oh yeah. Or wearing like velvet. Yes, I'm very sensual and I'm sitting on a desk that's beautiful wood and just like, I love touching things. I like different metals, but those are the kind of things, what brings you joy, right? For me, that's so much.
Exactly.
Bring in a little bit more. And it can just be a tiny bit of your day, but every day, not a like tick what to do, what extra to do, but like, how can we just immerse ourselves more into who we are.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I love the, like in Qigong, you have these things called the dragon fingers, and you literally just put them here and you just, it feels so good, like just that, just going around. Like I can do it now. I have my weird hair, but just going down, it feels so nourishing and so
It's
juicy. And
also
like,
so good for the nervous system, right? I do this one where I get people to do it and they're side parting. It's like, oh, or they're
yeah,
middle
yeah,
parting. Super good.
exactly.
So how do people find you? How do they work with you? I know everything will go in the show notes, but I also want you to tell them.
They can reach out for sessions. They can find me on info@rosakelly.com. I am starting, I've been saying this forever, but now I'm really going to do it. I want to start doing more on Instagram, especially around my Qigong. So I have a tiny Instagram account called Rosa Sparks, so they can find me there. And other than that, I have been saying forever, but that I'm going to do group programs. I have done a little bit already, but I'm going to do more. Like especially for couples, I did my first retreat for couples a while ago, and it was amazing. And I did some retreats and workshop for women with a lot of Qigong in it, a lot of Taoist-based pleasure practices.
Nice.
So there will be more. So they can always send me a message if they're interested, and I will keep them posted.
Love it, love it, love it. Now I'm going to ask you, can I pull you a card?
Yes,
All
I
right,
would
that
love
means
that.
you are going to have to answer. It's not because they're communication and
No, no, no.
influence. All right, it's from Healing and Growth. Tell me something about sex you still find awkward.
This is exactly what I'm feeling into. Is there anything I find awkward? There's stuff that I find more difficult, but awkward, funny enough, like I don't think there's stuff that I find awkward, but it doesn't mean I think everything is easy. Maybe I still find it a little bit awkward when my partner initiates and there's nothing in me that gets turned on. There's still that internalized voice that says that I am a woman, I need to deliver, so then to say no, there's still a tiny bit, of course I do, but there's always a tiny bit that actually is, it's like, is it okay if I just don't want this now? And sometimes I do what my partner learned. When he says, he used to do this thing where he said, do you feel like having sex? And I was like, what sort of question is that? I said, you clearly do feel like having sex. But if you ask me and it's coming out of the blue, clearly the answer is going to be no. So now he knows that he's asking like, would you be open to explore if anything in you can open up? Which I think is so much better. Yes. And then I think that's a great question. And then when I don't, because he's so like, he asks in such a nice way. And then sometimes I'm like, no, I still find that a little bit awkward. But I do it. But it's still the pleaser in me, probably But, we do the human experience.
Thank you. Beautiful answer. And I love the vulnerability and where you went with that. And I think that's the beauty of cards like this, right? Just open.
That's gorgeous.
Each other.
I want them.
I will send you. They're also online. You can get them on your phone. Actually, they're on an app. My daughter built the app so that you
Wow, amazing.
have the box, your physical presence. Which me as a Senko, I'm like, no, actually, the physical box is better. But for people abroad, I just think on an app, they're on your phone. You can just pick them. Send you
Amazing.
a taster deck of 10 that you can just try for free. Do that first.
So good.
It has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.